Hello, everyone. Welcome to the October 2025 Carbon Issue Forum Northeast/Boston Reuse Working Group. We have a good working session and presentation set up for everyone today. So first, we'll hear from the MassDEP, both Michael Elliott and Kathy Mirza on their respective branches, some updates on CD action plans, some updates on deconstruction, reuse, including a workshop next week. And then afterwards, we'll all navigate to Miro. I can send out a link. And what we're hoping for is to reach out to the group and get your opinions, your ideas, your policy suggestions for the Massachusetts Intergovernmental Embodied Carbon Coordinating Council. So I've been saying that a lot lately. But first, to start it off, just because I have your slides, Michael, I can start with you. So here we go. Take it away.
Thanks, Michael. All right, why don't we go to slide 2. All right, so we're talking about the C&D action plan mid-course assessment. Why do we do this? Well, I don't know if everyone on the call knows, but MassDEP is required by statute to develop a solid waste master plan in 10-year planning cycles, which establishes policy framework for reducing and managing solid waste that is generated, reused, recycled, and disposed of in Massachusetts by residents and businesses. That's all of us. And in our 2030 solid waste master plan, we said we would do, we're regretting this now, but we said we would do a mid-course assessment by 2025. And one of the principal structures of the solid waste master plan is that it is composed of each program within it has its own individual action plan. So, Kathy maintains the reduce and reuse action plan. I maintain the C&D materials management action plan. So each program has its own action plan, which are meant to be dynamic documents that provide, more tangible objectives that can help us achieve our solid waste master plan waste reduction goals. And basically, the mid-course assessment involves, some time evaluating the scope and progress of the current plan, soliciting input, which we started doing back in May for the C&D program. And then I ran another subcommittee meeting just last month in September to get some more feedback. And then later in the year, we'll modify as necessary. We can go to the next slide, Michael. So hopefully you're on slide 3 here. So yeah, the current version of the C&D master plan, which was really developed during the 2016 to 2019 or 2016 to 2020 timeframe, established 4 main objectives. 1, improve job site waste management and, of course, source separation. 2, enhance collection and processing of our infrastructure across the state, our C&D handling facilities. 3, develop new end markets, either or expand existing or developing new end markets. And 4, something we always say, promote state interagency cooperation to advance leading by example. All right, and this the link on this page, I don't know, Michael, if you're going to make these slides available to everybody, but the link on this page is a direct link to our C&D action plan if you wish to look through the existing one. All right, let's go to
I'll make it available.
Thank you. So we'll go to slide 4, which is our first objective, as I pointed out, was improving job site waste management. And I believe that this subcommittee, the CLF Boston Northeast Reuse Subcommittee, is one of the best examples of what we envisioned of how we would advance this objective, and of course that's why we fully support the work of this group. And you might notice the image on the right side of this slide might look familiar. That's thanks to Michael Orbank and the STO group. They made this available to us. This is an excerpt from one of the training videos that Michael and the STO group developed in conjunction with Recycling Works, our technical assistance arm that is available on the Recycling Works webpage that provides, training on how to conduct job site source separation. All right, why don't we go to the next slide, Michael? So some of the suggestions we heard back in May, I won't go through all of them, but one was to support deconstruction initiatives. So Kathy's going to talk to us later about the work that her group is doing to conduct a deconstruction workshop. And that's an excellent example of how we're supporting that objective. Move on to the next slide, slide 6. Again, related to job site waste management, another suggestion was that we should do more outreach and education, to trade associations, unions, vocational high schools. And you can see I highlighted on the bottom something that I think may be relevant to this group. We think that the best way for us to reach all of these different outreach organizations is to reach out through general contractors and developers. So folks like you who are on the call, and then find the best way to and the best organizations for us to get the message out on how to best manage materials on the job site. Moving on to slide 7. A big emphasis of the C&D materials management program has always been our C&D facility, the processors and transfer stations. And one of the things we said we would do was that we would establish a minimum performance standard for C&D processors, which we did. In 2020, we established two basic performance criteria. One was really a core element of all of their permits, which was to separate waistband materials to the greatest extent possible. And I'm sorry if I'm introducing the term. I assume everybody knows what a waistband material is. So Massachusetts has, by regulation, has established certain materials that are banned from disposal, either disposal in a landfill or disposal through combustion or both. And there are 4 C&D materials that are subject to the waistbands. So the minimum performance standard says that you have to remove all waistband materials, not just the C&D waistband materials, but all waistband materials, including cardboard, including CRTs. So all waistband materials have to be removed to the greatest extent possible, and the facility has to be achieving a process separation rate minimum threshold, which was initially set at 15%. And in 2024, we announced that we would have incremental increases in subsequent years through 2030, up to 25% process separation rate by then. All right, if we can move on to the next slide, Michael. So some of the suggestions we got one from industry basically asking us to adjust how we calculate the process separation rate. We said no. They wanted us to give them credit for the materials coming in from the job sites as meeting a C&D residual. We said no, that's not viable. We can't measure that. We can't inspect that. We don't have any data to confirm. And when I reached out to the folks on the some of the members of this group and others in the construction management organizations, they said we can't guarantee that the materials we're providing you will meet the definition of a C&D residual. So we're not going to, DEP said that's not viable. But what we did agree to was that we should, and we've been hearing this for years from this group, is that we need to improve the accuracy and precision, really the transparency of the C&D facility operational reports. I know Michael Orbank has, for many years, has brought our attention to the way that these weren't really the most transparent documents to work with. So we did launch this past year, working with some of the members that are on this call today. We launched a new C&D operations report form in Excel format, and around the same time we also rolled that out and increased the reporting frequency of the 18 C&D processors across the state. So we're now getting quarterly reports, and I will be publishing that quarterly data shortly, so that you'll have a better, hopefully, a better accuracy and precision about the performance of the facilities that you're relying on to recycle the materials that you're sending them. All right, if we can move on to slide 9, Michael. Objective 3 was to develop end markets. Here we're really working, coordinating with. There's another work group called the Recycling Market Development Work Group, which is also part of the Solid Waste Master Plan. So we're coordinating with them to make sure that we take advantage of all of their efforts to help us develop new markets for the C&D materials. And their work plan really emphasizes 3 components: grant assistance programs. Okay, so things like the new waste reduction innovation grant that went into effect this year, the recycling business development grant that we've had in place since 2016, and the recycling loan fund. So grant and assistance programs, financial assistance programs, education outreach, which I think yesterday, if any of you were on the call yesterday that they conducted, I think that was a great example of the outreach they're doing to connect the business community to a lot of the resources that are available in Massachusetts to help with developing, new business opportunities. And then also they're promoting, the third initiative they're promoting is research and development. Okay, moving on to the next slide. One of the suggestions we heard from one particular member back in May on the C&D subcommittee meeting was to look for market development opportunities with the large construction projects that will go into effect when they start, replacing the bridges across the Cape Cod Canal. I think the number is now like $4 billion. I don't know whether that's for one bridge or both bridges, but there's going to be a lot of work down there and a lot of opportunity to, try to pilot new programs for reusing materials and when we demo it, recycling and reusing as much of the material as we can. So lots of opportunity there. And the fourth objective, which is one that we hear over and over, promoting state interagency cooperation. We support the idea of promoting interagency cooperation by in the leading by example. Again, I have to point to the great work that my colleague Kathy Mirza has done. She has made great inroads, bringing us much closer and closer cooperation with DCAM. DCAM is the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. That's the state agency that maintains and manages all of our properties and leased spaces. So she has developed a very close relationship with the deputy commissioner there of facilities maintenance and decarbonization, and I think that will likely produce great results as we work closer and closer together. And if we go to the last slide, Michael, I guess one more, go to slide 13. Michael mentioned this earlier, but we're looking for ways that we can get more involved with the Embodied Carbon Intergovernmental Coordinating Council to encourage interagency cooperation. So I'm really excited about this call today to learn more about that and how this group will be involved with the ECICC. And just slide 14, our next steps is, try to basically take all the suggestions we've heard, evaluate it internally and decide what changes we want to make, and then publish a revised version of the C&D Action Plan before the end of the year. And my contact information is on slide 15, as well as some links.
Awesome, thank you. I'll definitely be sending out these slides with hopefully all the working links. Appreciate that. Mike, before we go to Kathy, I would ask on a general note, I believe you've been with this action plan and for most of the process. How have you seen over the past couple of years it grow and move and going towards the 2030 goal, which is rapidly approaching? Well, do
Yeah.
you have confidence to start hitting these goals? Do you think drastic action will be needed? I'd like to know, just for the group.
Thank you, Michael. And what you've jogged my memory. I totally just leaped over one of the most important points I wanted to make back on the slide about the C&D processors. So we put the emphasis on the minimum performance standard. We've established this measurable performance goal, the process separation rate, and we've also said that the facilities, the processors have to meet increasingly higher levels of process separation rate over the next 5 years to 2030. But when we did some sensitivity analysis of what does that get us, what we learned was that even if we achieve our 25% process separation by 2030, that does not get us to the C&D waste reduction goal. So we've concluded that the C&D processors alone are not going to get us to our goal. And that I think that emphasizes more than ever that we need to take the all of the above approach. We need to really support all the things that we're doing in this subcommittee, which is the job site source separation, the reuse, the deconstruction, design for environment. We have to take an all of the above approach because we're not going to get there with just C&D processors alone, even in the most ideal outcome.
Sure. And I mean, good to know that that change is needed going forward and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, just really how we get there. So thank you, Mike. Appreciate that breakdown. Kathy, if we could move to you, you have the floor just to speak about kind of your section of MassDEP and the upcoming deconstruction workshop.
Sure, thank you. And hi, everyone. I think I've met many of you here on the call, but it's nice to meet you here virtually. For those who don't know me, I'm Kathy Mirza, and I'm the branch chief for municipal waste reduction programs at MassDEP, which means that I have a team that works with cities and towns across the state on a variety of programs. We support waste reduction grants for municipalities, technical assistance that we offer in many ways, as well as outreach and education resources. And another big component of the work that several folks on my team do is really to dive into this reduce and reuse action plan, another one of the state's action plans that Mike Elliott just referenced a moment ago, because the state has a number of them focused on specific issue areas and how we can go much deeper and attach initiatives and timelines and deliverables to those things. And so when I came on board in Boston, though I've worked for DEP for a very long time in different capacities for 25 plus years, the past 4 years or so I've been in Boston, and we were asked, my team and I, let's start implementing this reduce and reuse action plan. So when we started looking at this, one of the things that rose to the top was the idea of before materials get to recycling, before they get to the composting stage or the disposal stage, we know that waste prevention and reuse really offer the greatest opportunities for the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. That higher part of the hierarchy for how we manage our discards and the materials that we use in everyday life all across, and what are the best ways that we can manage those materials once we no longer need them. Also with the aim of developing a circular economy for a variety of different materials. And so building materials came up. Top of the list is what we would go after first. And so that specific need was identified right up front, and it's looking at deconstruction, it's looking at new construction and renovation, with the goal in mind always the framework of reducing demolition waste and diverting building materials from disposal. So about 3 years ago, we formed a deconstruction work group, which some of you may be familiar with. I'm so grateful to Michael Orbank. I'm not sure if Christian's on the call because I can't see everybody, but there are several folks that have been part of our planning team. We invited in about a dozen people who we consider subject matter experts that represent different sectors, because we are not the subject matter experts in this space, but really try to bring in folks who have experience in different parts of this process so that we could together coordinate and think through where the needs were and how we could move this forward. How might we educate ourselves? How might we bring others who are in this ecosystem up to speed and together with us? So with this planning team and subject matter experts, we put together 7 webinars. Some of you may have attended those over the past few years. We've had approximately quarterly webinars, anything from the very first one, which is, what are we talking about when we say deconstruction? Let's try to demystify that a little bit. Or let's bring in some experts that have already done it. What does it look like? What does it mean to take buildings apart? What are we trying to capture? Where's the value in there? We've brought in folks to speak about reuse markets, where they exist, where there are gaps, and what we might need more of. Historic preservation has been a consistent part of this conversation because they naturally align with reuse, adaptive reuse of existing buildings, for sure. We've shown many examples of how deconstruction and reuse is already happening in Massachusetts and how we could go further. And last but not least, our last webinar was about workforce development and deconstruction. So you can see this touches many different places and many people. We've learned a lot through this process. We've done our best to share and taken up every opportunity we've had to share and connect, whether it be at conferences, other meetings. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is the conversation increasing in this space and interest increasing and the questions coming in and people looking for support. Okay, we have a little bit of an idea what this is about. How can you help us get there? Can you help us do this or that? So at this moment in time, what we've decided to do, and this is about the workshop that we're having next week, is we wanted to take what we have and create something that we can move forward with. So we hired a professional consultant, Barbara Bott-Shalom, for those of you who may know her, and her team at Sustainable Performance Institute. And we're working with them, and we have been for approximately the last 6 months, maybe a little bit less than that, to help us plan and facilitate a workshop that'll take place next week. It's an all-day workshop and it's in person and it's by invitation only, which might sound a little bit odd, but it partly has to do with we want to be very balanced about representation from as many sectors as we can identify that touch this and bring them to the table, also cognizant of the space we have and some space limitations. But right now it looks quite good in terms of who we anticipate will come and join us. And let's see, it has several different components that I wanted to just highlight for you very briefly. Our goals for the workshop are primarily to identify the opportunities to really advance deconstruction and building material reuse in Massachusetts through our levers and tools that we have available to us. So it may be through regulations, policy, technical assistance, grants, infrastructure development, outreach initiatives, and then coupled with a strategy for implementation. We've taken a very targeted approach to inviting participants, as I just mentioned. We really wanted to bring people to the table who are at a level of expertise or understanding of this work that they could both contribute to the conversation and also ideally to have the ability to put this into action in their respective workplaces. So we've included architects, developers, contractors, demo companies, reuse organizations, municipalities, a number of state agencies, including DCAM, economic development, mass development, who oversees, land, Department of Conservation and Recreation is all state parks and properties, and there may even be a few more because so many have actually come out, and a few folks from the Climate Chief's office because of the ECICC working sessions. They have reached out and asked to be in the room as well. One thing Barbara and her team have also done is very targeted surveys and interviews of those with subject matter expertise. And so those have been in progress. They've done surveys and interviews with owners and developers, architects and designers. Again, these are specific to the sectors, construction managers and general contractors, and C&D processors. Kind of a lot there, throwing a lot out at you, but there's been a lot of preparation in advance leading up to next week is really what I wanted to convey to you, and a lot of thought. And we really are very hopeful of what we can together discuss and what will emerge in the conversation as and inform our takeaways. So following the workshop, Barbara and her team will produce a final report with recommendations and next steps. And that will help us, our team at DEP, with our planning, with our own action plan, our program development, as we put together some policy recommendations, resource development, and training. So that's a lot. That's the snapshot I wanted to share with you. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I recognize some names. I know folks that here are invited, and we look forward to meeting you in person next week.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully this upcoming workshop is a culmination of a lot of the different webinars and can really not only bring all the players together, but take actionable steps forward. So appreciate sharing that. I just shared the invite link for Miro in the chat. And while people get on that, and hopefully it works, wanted to give some quick context about this working session and what we're looking for. So I'll share my screen again. So for those of you who do not know, in 2024, Massachusetts House and Senate passed a climate omnibus, and part of that was language towards creating an embodied carbon intergovernmental coordinating council to take suggestions from research, from industry, and work with the legislature to create actionable and targetable laws and policy to reduce embodied carbon use in the Commonwealth. So what we wanted to do here is not only obviously show you the link, but recently this council reached out to CLF Boston Northeast and asked for recommendations from all the policy heads, as well as all the working group heads. That is being compiled into this document, taking in bio-based materials, looking at the concrete group, watching my screen crash, all the different groups. But what we wanted to do, and what I have where are we on Miro? Fantastic. If you can access the Miro board, you should be able to see the October 2024. Man, I wish Olivia could help me here. I feel like such a boomer. Doesn't matter. Looking through all of this, I'll just stop sharing my screen and restart this. But if you can access it, please take a look. You should find that little area. Let me, without being technologically illiterate, and restart this. There it is. I was zoomed out to 1,000%. Very exciting. Okay, let me reshare. So hopefully, as you can all see, and for those of you who can access, and this October 2025 meeting, which is just a little bit on top of the strategic planning, there are a couple of currently proposed suggestions to this council that Olivia and I have created and sent over. I'll discuss these real quick, and then we'll reach out to the group for new suggestions. So some of the suggestions that have already come up and we've put down are really looking to work with policy to create the incentives, a lot of incentives that don't particularly exist right now. So whether it's direct incentives to the permitting process or working with state-owned pilot projects, really creating some way to incentivize reuse as a way to drive down embodied carbon, linking circularity and reuse to climate action, taking the embodied carbon benefits of reuse and linking them to municipalities and state-owned climate action plans, not just looking at operational carbon, but really looking at material reuse and circularity as a way to drive those emissions down, incorporating deconstruction incentives around permitting, as I said, both carrot and stick, developing and enacting green job training to really grow commercial deconstruction, where right now, I would say all throughout New England, there does not exist, or if it is, it's extremely niche. Establishing government project salvage and reuse requirements, working with DCAM working with MassDOT on these big government projects and saying, hey, can we fundamentally put in salvage and reuse requirements? Another one, and my comments are in the way here, establishing a robust grant program following off what the MassDEP has done that really supports efforts and secures storage space. As we've heard from many different presentations over the past couple of years, if you're as into this network as many of us are, you know that storage space has far and away been one of the biggest button items that is not being filled. And the lack of that, reuse vendors and resources cannot grow. And then we have a very hard time completing that circle when we want to go design with reuse in mind, because we don't know where, we don't know how to source all of these goods that we could potentially salvage. Another one, Mike Ellie kind of mentioned this, looking at extended producer responsibility at a state level. Similar to what it currently exists in California, and then in our neck of the woods, Vermont, Maine, New York are recently establishing some on this, really creating those markets and creating those policies so that we can start reducing the burden that a lot of this typical C&D waste creates, and start working towards what better looks like. Establishing increasing and prohibitive landfill tipping fees, really taking a knockoff Europe's book there and what's happening at California now, to increase landfill tipping fees to a point in which it just starts making financial sense. Some people are calling it an impact fee. The crowd group out of Ithaca, New York has suggested this in New York as one of the main drivers for pushing circularity efforts. And then lastly, our suggestion is creating legislation that really requires transparency. It really demands transparency from a lot of different state agencies, including the MassDEP, on audits of waste processing facilities, so we could create a baseline. While some of these suggestions aren't explicitly reuse, what we have found and what many in this group have found is that without really knowing where we are in a good way, not having solid data and a baseline to move from, it's very hard to know how targeted efforts can even improve where we are, our situation, how much we're landfilling, the lack of reuse infrastructure. So with all of that in mind, everyone should see on the Miro board over here, I've put some stickies here. If you want to make suggestions, please, by all means, take one of these stickies. You can also, I'm sharing screen, yeah. You can also go to the sidebar here and create your own sticky. Would love to hear from the group, different ideas, comments, suggestions that you all may have for policy, whether it's direct policy towards reuse, whether it's a policy in a different state, municipality, country that you have seen has pushed circularity and reuse forward, or just generalized policy suggestions to really drive down embodied carbon. If you also want suggestions just in general, towards thoughts of, hey, I think this would work towards circularity, we welcome those as well. And I will spend, after this meeting, time filtering them out and putting them into the big document. But with that, I can stop speaking so much and welcome kind of any thoughts. Feel free to put them directly on the board or speak up here, and one of us can put them on the board for you. Oh, and if you want, just on the stickies that already exist, if you want to put a comment or thumbs up, that would be appreciated too. It's always nice to know, hey, here's another facet to this, or no, I agree with that as an industry member. Also put in the chat if you can't get in. I can try to help. I'll just stop sharing for a second so I can look up something. One item that, and feel free to continue to do this and put things down. I see people are doing this. One item that came up is I mentioned Crowd. So that is a group out of Ithaca, New York, who was working with the Cornell Clean Construction Lab, and I would say doing a fantastic job towards promoting circularity, reuse, and kind of zero waste infrastructure. They do have a lot of different resources, but one of the ones that I found particularly helpful is they have a policy primer and a policy guide for both deconstruction and reuse. I'll look to link them right now, which is why I'm not sharing my screen. But if there are other documents, resources, links that you have as well, please feel free to link them onto the Miro board or send them our way. We always like to not only read through them, but use them as resources, because oftentimes a lot of these efforts are very siloed. And when we don't communicate, when we don't share them, how can we really push forward? Mickey, just because I see your comment, that is something that is brought up a lot. So for those who can't see, materials certification pathways, something that has been discussed before. I think in May, we brought on MIT, who is doing a lot of good work with structural steel reuse. Something that is consistently brought up is recertifying or restamping reused materials. A lot of times engineers do get a bit skittish about, hey, I'd love to use X, Y, and Z is reused, but I know for a fact that when it comes new, it goes under these rigorous standards, and it is my stamp and my kind of professional reputation I'm putting on this. So having certification pathways, whether it be structural, whether it be kind of a verification of qualities, is definitely something that has been brought up before. So a good point to make. Kathy, I would ask you, as people are kind of putting notes in, something that is brought up a lot is grants and funding, and creating something from nothing often takes a financial impetus. Uh, Curious with the waste innovation grants. I believe it was your team or your team adjacent who had kind of looked to create those, and was there A, what was the impetus behind that, and B, what is the ultimate hopeful end result of that? Is it looking to create new markets altogether? Is it looking to bolster markets that currently exist? I'd be curious to ask.
No, that's actually the adjacent team, so it's the commercial branch that we did. So my group did not work on those directly at all, but I will say that what we've heard is this idea of making a very substantial investment so that we can really change. They decision makers really want to see substantial change in how we manage certain materials, that we really need to. We have such disposal capacity constraints in Massachusetts, which some of you may be familiar with. Close to 40% of our solid waste is disposed of out of state. So we feel compelled to really have an all hands on deck and look at the largest, where's the greatest amount of generation, what's going out of state. C&D is a really, really big part of that. Over 1 million tons per year of waste is going out of state from C&D. Most of that is the demo side. And the idea is to let's have a real substantial injection here that can move the needle. I'm not privy, unfortunately, I have nothing to share explicitly about what they've received so far, even the number of applications, because it's not my team.
Sure.
But we did learn, was it earlier this week, that certainly later this year, by the end of the year, they anticipate being able to have some decisions made about it. Maybe Mike can help a little there. Yeah.
Sure. I believe you're on mute, Mike.
I apologize. So if I'm not speaking out of turn, I did collect some information from the commercial waste reduction branch on the status of the Waste Reduction Innovation Grant prior to my September meeting. Although basically my management felt it was, sort of it wasn't available at this time, so they had me pull the slide. But basically where it was, so that the grants applications were due by July 15th. There were 2 categories. Category 1 was startup/pilot projects. The grant awards ranging from $50,000 to $100,000 with a 25% match. Category 2 would be capital investments, awards of $500,000 to $2 million with a 50% match. So the startup pilot projects were, eligibility was very broad. It could even include, the cost covered would even include consultants and operating costs. For the capital investments, it really was capital. We wanted to see, I think, installation of new technologies in the state. And they did receive applications. They expect to have award finalists before the end of the year, probably in December, and hopefully get the contracts finalized by March and begin the process of the first round in April. One of the things that the team told me was that they're hoping that a lot of the they got a large number of Category 1 applications. They're hoping that some of those Category 1 applications will evolve into the capital investments, the big, the big awards for capital investments in future rounds.
Sure.
And,
looking back on some of these, what I think is kind of very telling, and so Barbara yesterday had a bunch of the bigger players that are going to be the kind of more ingrained players. They're going to be at next week's meeting to kind of give some more information and kind of break down more of a path. And one thing that was stated is that if we're looking to grow reuse infrastructure, oftentimes it doesn't currently exist. Which is tough but noticeable. And I do see a lot of designers that are in this group and a lot of designers that show up at these calls and will be at next week's. For the designers on this call, whether you're putting stickies in or not, is there anything that would either, I guess, force you to or incentivize you to start kind of pushing into this reuse ecosystem? It's always a nice thing to do if you can get to it, if you can have an owner that wants to do it, if you can kind of have a project that all the stars align. But in thinking about creating this circular economy and legislation to push that, what I'd ask, is there anything from the design side that would either force your hand or really incentivize you to start designing for circularity and reuse in mind, if anyone's willing to share? Because I'll preface that by saying the same question was asked to contractors. And a lot of times it's very easy for contractors to just go, well, I just do what the drawings tell me. That's my job. I manage the process, and I don't want to go above and beyond simply because there's risks there. But I think in creating a lot of these policies and this sheet we're all putting in here, the hope is what policies, whether through carrot or stick, whether through straight up requirement or kind of sometimes a buy clean, getting rid of the options that we know are bad and limiting your options. How do we push towards better? How do we kind of force our hand? And a lot of times, legislation that is a permitting incentive has been found in other municipalities to really work towards that. But when you go to the design side, that isn't quite the case. So always just curious for designers if there's any kind of policy other than straight up saying you cannot build a building or design a building that does XYZ that would, with reuse in mind, kind of incentivize or push that forward.
Hi, Mike. This is Matt McCrary from Vlad.
Mhm.
I just had a quick thought on that, and I think, you were in our office about a month ago giving a presentation on this, and the concept is not totally new to the firm, but I think having an internal policy of how to just, when we begin a project, how to just run with it rather than sort of talk about it, but it has to be early on for us, I think. And
Sure.
not just a policy of how to do it or what we want to do, but all the steps needed so that it's sort of built in the way that maybe our code analysis and a sustainability analysis would be. So I don't know if there's templates or anything else like that that could be shared, but beginning an internal policy would be really, really helpful when we start kick off projects, because we're seeing schedules get tighter and tighter on a lot of our
Sure.
projects. Thank you.
No, I'll put that at a different part of the board, but no, it's very much appreciated. Hearing you say that, while there are emerging, I think, specifications and drawing examples, oftentimes design firms, and I'd say firms, private firms in general, have very specific internal kind of mechanisms and pushes forward. So have an example like that of establishing something within a firm and growing that is worth looking into and sharing with others.
Sort of along those lines, Michael, we've started doing relatively simplified, but sort of deconstruction material reuse reports right when we first get involved in the project. Just to kind of get folks thinking about it.
Sure.
And we haven't done it on every project right now, but the plan is to include that as an action on every project.
Something I will share, and earlier either this year, I think in March or February, we had Hennepin County and a couple different designers and Andrew Ellsworth of Doors Unhinged talk to and share the Project Manager's Guide for Commercial Deconstruction. I'll look to link that again here as a resource. But having, I think, guides and templates like that can easily go into projects beforehand and say, hey, here's either the stepwise process, here's what you should be looking for, or here's the kind of documentation, guidelines, and specs that force eventually contractors' hands are really important, because getting in that as early as possible oftentimes is seen as the key to kind of improving that flow as it goes. Sure. Looking through all of these now. The item about the recent article in increasing fees that can lead to dumping, that is interesting. And I imagine it would be a very interesting balancing act between what is a nominal price increase to slowly force the hand of industry by saying, well, if I put a little more effort into site separation, it'll be better than kind of the commingled tipping fees, versus other parts of the market where suddenly instead of $180 a ton, it's now $400 a ton, and I'm just going to take the risk and dump it out back because I want to pay that. A delicate dance, I imagine.
Hey, I have a question. Is anyone from Gensler in the CLF Boston Reuse Working Group?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Most of the Gensler presence in that is New York City. I believe the Boston office is fairly satellite-esque.
Okay. From the New York City Gensler group, there's been some circularity movement specific to the glass recycling. But Gensler did share within that group some like selective demo, construction waste management, specifications and plans for feedback. So I'm wondering if that would be worthwhile to share within this group too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I could probably look into it, but if you have access to that, we'd love to not only have that, but use that as a resource to share within the group.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. And is that like positive and infinite recycled technologies kind of thing?
No, it like Gensler made it to promote circularity with like before you demo, look at these things and
Sure.
then hand it off to contractor kind of thing.
Yeah. Very helpful then.
Okay. Michael, I can just email that to you and you can share it to the group.
100%.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. So with the last 5 minutes, we'll say, A, thank you to not only members who presented, but also adding to this. We'll look to finalize it and use some of these suggestions. The idea of not only whoever had this purple note here, I know I'm not sharing, but supporting reuse orgs from the savings from disposal. An interconnection, but I think a good interconnection. And thank you, Kathy. See you next week. Yeah, I think Olivia and I had the idea of, like I said, brainstorming from the group. I know it's not always easy writing policy or suggesting policy, but always reaching out to industry members to just see what these suggestions could turn into and grow into. So we will look to collect all this. This board will be open for a bit. So if any other thoughts come up, if any other ideas come up, we'd love to have more policy suggestions. And like I said, I'll be going later today before end of day and consolidating these and kind of adding them to the list of suggestions we already have. Looking for the next meeting, I was hoping to reach out to Resource Waste Roxbury and do a field trip for November, but for those in the area and in the know, in May, there was a fire at Rerox. Batteries, very, very bad. 9-volt lithium-ion batteries should not be put into commingled waste because when they are crushed and put under pressure, they release an immense amount of energy and start fires. There was a fire at Rerox. I was told a 7 or 8 alarm fire. And while Rerox, as of this time, is currently acting as a transfer station, getting off the phone with the facility manager yesterday, they said that their processing facility is not up yet. And will not be up. So we have delayed that for now, but we are looking for either February or March 2026 to do the next field trip because it is always really nice to get out and see the impacts of this waste, whether you're on the design or policy side, maybe if you haven't seen it before, or if you're on the contractor side, if you haven't seen it, it is the way looking at a mountain makes you feel small, is looking at Waste Mountain will make you feel small. So having that tangible look is always something. So we will have to pivot for the November meeting, but fear not, we are full of ideas and we will figure something out. Like I said, with that said, with the last 2 minutes, wanted to thank people in the group for coming today, not only having the MassDEP present, but also giving these suggestions. We do appreciate everyone's time. And if there are no other questions or comments, we can look to end this. Like I said, we'll keep the Miro board open if anyone wants to keep adding things in, but we appreciate everyone's time. Any last comments or questions? Awesome. Well, once again, thank you, everyone. We will see you hopefully next month. We will send out a meeting recording of this along with the Miro board link, notes, and hopefully some of the presentations and different documents discussed today. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to us at the clfbostonreuse@gmail.com. And if not, everyone, please have a good weekend.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.